Hello everyone, and welcome to Tokens and Heft. I'm Lincoln, and today we're taking a look at the DC Comics deck building game. Now, this is more or less the same as the Lord of the Rings deck building game. From what I can tell, it's the same system, different set of characters. And originally I avoided this game because I had Marvel Legendary, which is a very big full-featured game where there's a lot going on, and you're really going out and taking out different bad guys, going after supervillains. There's a whole lot going on in that game. And I avoided this for so long because it just seems so simple and not as thematic. But once I finally picked it up, it's been a lot of fun. So let's open up this box and you'll see what's inside. Of course, a lovely rule book, which I'd say doesn't need to be as big as it is, but they use a lot of art. There's a lot of pictures. They take up plenty of space with it. And from what I can tell, about half of this is additional rules, variants, and little FAQ for specific cards. So, nice book. Does a great job. Now here's something I love and hate. I love that we have such great storage. Character cards go in here. You get 7 in this. I don't understand why it's this big. Even with the other expansion, you'd only fill up... No, you'd barely fill up like a fifth of this. We've got... Everything's labeled on the side here. There is nothing under here. This is just big empty space. We've got the main deck. Punches and vulnerabilities, which are like your starting cards. There are kicks, which are the cheapest. If you can't buy anything else, you could probably buy a kick card. There's weaknesses, which will be out, and certain characters will give those to you when they're used. And then we've got a deck of supervillains up here. And I'm just going to walk you through this since the setup is really not that big a deal. First, we take our supervillain deck. This is the main point of the game, is to defeat the supervillains. You're going to be taking your turns, buying cards from the main deck, until you can take out a supervillain. Now, to start this, Ra's al Ghul always goes on top. He's always the first supervillain you face. We've also got plenty of others. The Joker, Black Manta, who despite being a goofy old villain, still looks pretty terrifying these days. Lex Luthor, Captain Cold, Brainiac, Darkseid, Deathstroke, Sinestro, Atrocitus, Parallax, and the Anti-Monitor. Now you'll take all of these except Ra's al Ghul, shuffle them up, and then we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and he's the 8th on top. It might actually be... I might supposed to draw 8 cards and have him be the 9th on top. It's not that big a deal. The size of this deck determines how long your game's going to be, more or less. So, when I first played this, the earlier games, I think we did it with like 4 or 5 villains till we got the hang of it. And now we just play with like the 8 or 9 villains, whatever the rule book says. So we'll put those somewhere. Oh, a sec. Let's move this out of the way, and we will put the rest of the supervillains in the back in the deck. Give me your cards. So we'll have some supervillains up here. There's no... Okay, the rule book gives you diagrams for setup, but you can set it up kind of however you want. We generally have the supervillains, the weaknesses, and the kicks all in one row. And then all you really need to do for the board is take this deck of all the cards, shuffle it up, and deal out 5. Do a quick little shuffle here off camera. Here we go. We would stick this around here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. Let's rearrange all this a little bit. There, you can definitely see a little better now. I can zoom in a little bit, perhaps. Now, the cards that are out, for the most part, the cards all have different types, but really, it doesn't matter, except for specific powers. The different superheroes do different things. Like Superman, the more superpowers you use in your turn, the more of a bonus he will get. So, see, Heat Vision is labeled as a superpower. Batman likes to use gear cards. The more of those he uses, more different gear cards he uses, the more he will get bonuses from that kind of thing. Though luckily on this one, there's only really one card I need to talk about, and that are locations. Locations, from what I can tell, you can have as many locations as you like available, and not once you buy it, but once you have this in your hand and once you've played it, it stays out for the rest of the game unless some other effect takes it away. So we've got Titan's Tower. When you play it, that's just the location text. When you leave it in front of you for the rest of the game, and they all have an ongoing. When you play your first card with a cost of 2 or 3 on each of your turns, draw a card. So that's more card drawing. That's pretty nice. For any card, really, they all break down pretty much the same. We've got the title text, DC logo, art, the type of power they are, any special effects. This is the cost. This is how much it costs to buy the card from the lineup here. And then this is how many victory points the card is worth. Because, like any good deck building game, or any good cooperative game like this, everybody wins, but then at the end you can count points to see who really won. Or who won the most. All that's left is to set up your characters, which is nice and easy. You can have people select their hero, or you can dole them out randomly. We usually do it randomly since we've played with a bunch of them by now. In this set, you get Green Lantern, Aquaman, Batman, Cyborg, The Flash, Wonder Woman, and Superman. There's a whole second expansion to this, and instead of being like a small little bunch of just like maybe 50 cards or something like that, the expansion is essentially a whole another set of all of this. It's the same size box. It's a complete standalone thing. It comes with all the cards you need, the standard cards you need, and then another bunch of heroes. I might actually pick that up today, now that I think about it. So, you will be given your hero randomly. Let's shuffle this and draw one for me. Oh, this is a fun one. Playing as the Green Lantern. If you play 3 or more cards with different names and cost 1 or more during your turn, you get +3 power. Now, that cost 1 or more thing, the only real reason you need that's worded like that and sounds weird is it's basically saying cards that aren't basics or weaknesses. Once everyone has their heroes, they get all of those. And you get kicks or vulnerabilities and punches, and I completely forget the stupid breakdown for that. You get 7 of the punches, which are just a paltry little +1 power. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you will get 3 of these vulnerabilities, which do absolutely nothing, are worth 0 victory points, and do not cost anything. That is your starting deck. So you'll shuffle this up. You'll start with 10 cards, so you'll be drawing 5. Like any good deck, like any real deck building game that I've played, you start with enough cards or enough whatever to get you through 2 rounds before all your other stuff cycles in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. I have 4 punches and a vulnerability, which means I have 4 power. Now, I can buy stuff from the lineup. You can buy as many cards as you like. As long as you can afford them, you can buy as many cards as you want. You can also purchase a kick if you want. Those count as being part of the lineup at all times. The tricky thing here is, unlike some other games, nothing gets refreshed until the end of your turn. So I've got 4 of these. So really, the only thing I can afford to buy is Two-Face or a Kick. Just for funsies, I'm going to go with Two-Face. That costs 2 power, as you can see by the thingy. He goes into my discard pile. I can't afford to buy anything else at all, so all of the cards I used will go into my discard pile. Yeah, I'm kind of showing there. And that would be my turn, and we would refresh this now. And that's it. That's really all the game is. Mechanically, that's it. Next person draws their hand, buys some stuff, and goes on. And it's hard to show off from the beginning, but over time, over a couple rounds, you're getting more and more of your good cards out. All these new cards you've bought. And you start to get chains and cascades of things, and things kick off one another. Oh, this is actually something I should bring up now that I see it. Some of these villain cards have an attack. That means, now the villains will go into your deck and you'll play them like regular cards. And when you play an attack, that's something that it's an effect that happens to everyone else but you. So, when you play Starro, each foe discards the top card of his deck. You may play each non-location card this way this turn. That's crazy. That's really awesome. So they all discard the top card of their deck, so it's sitting on the top of their discard pile, and then I can use all of those cards for this turn. Not in the long run. From what I can tell at the end of this, it goes back to the player who owns the cards, but you can use their powers for a turn, which is a very Starro thing to do. Just take them over and use them up. And really all you're trying to do is be able to finally pull off... you'll have 8 power, and you'll be able to defeat Ra's al Ghul, who is a pretty decent power. These guys go into your deck and you get to use them. At the end of this turn, put this card in the bottom of its owner's deck before drawing a new hand. So when you use Ra's al Ghul, normally he would go to the discard pile with the rest of your hand. But no, he never really dies, so you put this at the bottom of your draw pile. So he'll come out sooner. Normally you'd have to wait until you go through all of your regular deck. Then you would have to pick up your whole discard pile, shuffle that, and hope to draw Ra's al Ghul. Nope, he's just there at your deck, so you'll hit him before you have to... You'll always hit him before you have to pick up your draw pile and shuffle that up. Or your discard pile, sorry. Now, the rest of these guys all have a first appearance attack, which... After you defeat Ra's al Ghul, and it's still that player's turn, that player turns over the next card, and we deal with the first appearance. Each player flips his superhero face down until his villain is defeated. I hate it when this guy shows up. I hate Captain Cold in this game, because you take your superhero card, turn it face down, and you no longer have that superpower, which is a lot of the time what you're building your whole deck around. Like, if you're Superman, you're picking up more superpowers than anything else. Batman gets gear cards. Green Lantern here, you try and go for a variety of different powers. So that really kind of just screws over how you had your deck planned and working. I don't know if you can tell, but the superhero cards are oversized just a bit. Which is nice and helps keep them from getting mixed up into everything else. And that's that. You go through, once you've defeated all of the villains, everyone takes their deck and counts everything up. Or counts up the victory points. Those are the little numbers in the stars on the bottom left. And you'll notice if you have any weaknesses, they're all worth -1. And here's where the cards come in to get to be real fun. I mean, I can't really show you how fun this game is without showing a real playthrough, because the cards and how they interact with everything are really where the game shines. Like those weaknesses there, if you have Bizarro in your deck, then weaknesses are all worth +1 instead of -1, which is just fun. The heat vision here, you can destroy a card in your hand or discard pile. The super strength is just a straight up +5 power. Let's take a look through some of these. Ooh, Arkham Asylum! When you play your first villain on each of your turns, you get to draw another card. That's really awesome. The Penguin, you'll get to draw 2 cards, then choose and discard 2 cards from your hand. Oh man, the Batcave. When you play your first equipment on each of your turns, draw a card. And so if Batman, whose deck is mostly who's going to try and be building a deck mostly out of gear cards, if he has the Batcave, that's a real big help for him. Oh, here's something else I need to point out. Super Speed. Draw a card. A lot of the Flash's cards are all extra card draws, which makes sense. But he's got a defense. I mentioned before, Starro here had that attack. I think it even works on first appearances. If you have a defense, you can use that defense. So if this is in your hand at the time, you can discard the card and use the defense, though you won't have it for your next turn. You don't get to draw back up. You can discard this card to avoid an attack. If you do, draw 2 cards. Not all of them have that draw 2 cards thing. That's more of a Flash kind of a thing. Poison Ivy. I just want to find another defense. Here's Zatanna Zatara. Put up to 2 cards from your discard pile on the bottom of your deck, which seems to go along with her. Hey, Gorilla Grodd! He's nothing but a straight +3 power, worth 2 VP. There's all sorts of fun characters, weapons, powers, all sorts of stuff. Oh, here's one of my favorites, and I love it when a deck building game has something like this. It's the Suicide Squad. If you already played 2 other Suicide Squads this turn, each foe discards his hand. That's really insane. I haven't seen it happen yet, because even if you have multiples in your deck, you generally don't get them all out on the same turn. But what I really love is you see how the victory points here are a star? Every Suicide Squad in your deck at the end of the game is worth 1 point per Suicide Squad member you have. So if you have 1, this is worth 1 point. If you have 2, they're each worth 2 points. If you have 3, all 3 of them are worth 3 points. So you get some exponential growth out of there. And that's always fun. There's, what is it? Thunderstone has the Horde, which works the same way. Here's a fun one. X-Ray Vision from Superman. Each foe reveals the top card of his deck. You can play one of the non-location cards revealed this way this turn, then return it to the top of the owner's deck. So you can see what they've got and give it a use. It's one of my buddy's favorite cards. He loves drawing extra cards. So fastest man alive, just draw 2 cards. Kid Flash's draw a card. There's some great art. Batman with a cape and a cow. Oh, he's got another defense. Oh yeah, you can discard it and then you draw 2 cards. Very nice. I've already got him out there. I actually purchased him, but Two-Face is fun. He's only got +1 power, but you choose even or odd, reveal the top card of your deck, and if it matches your even or odd choice, you get to draw it. Otherwise, you get to discard it, which is a pretty fun way to do things. Nope, that shouldn't be there. That's a kick. Kicks are simple, +2 power. Usually, if you can't buy anything else, you can buy a kick. And those shouldn't be in the main deck, but when you shuffle things up, they get weird. This has been a really fun game so far. I prefer, or I liked, Legendary is good if you want to really feel like you're being the characters working in a team and taking down villains. If you want something a lot smoother and simpler and faster, this game is fantastic. This is almost like playing a hand of poker or something for my group and I now. It's one of those things that's, like, oh, you want to do a quick starter or a quick starter before we begin, or you want to do a quick game of something before we leave, or call it a night. This is a game you can pull out. You're like, oh man, we got like 20 minutes before we got to leave. Let's throw down Marvel. Let's throw down DC Deck Builder first. I almost said Marvel Legendary. Marvel Legendary is a game that takes anywhere from 1 to 5 hours, depending on how bad you are at shuffling, which is me, and just how everything kind of works out. Not that I don't love it, and I will talk about that one in the future, but the DC Deck Builder is going to be, for one, way easier to learn, way easier to get new people into, and it's just a real quick, fun little game. You know, most of the time we end up playing 2 or 3 rounds of this just because it goes by pretty quick sometimes. Especially when you start getting some good combinations out. And no, by the end of the game, you're killing like every round, once around the table, someone's taken out a supervillain for those last couple. And it just goes really well. It's been a lot of fun. If you're some familiarity with DC definitely is going to help. I am more familiar with DC than I realized from playing this game, because everything made sense to me, everything worked out. The powers of the individual guys and cards are all neat, and overall, just a fun, quick game. So if you're into deck building games and you like DC, give it a shot. It's a good one. It's a fun little game. You'll probably break out a couple of times a week. Well, it gets more play than a lot of the other games, definitely. Well, all that being said, this is the DC deck building game. It's fun. Go pick it up. I've been Lincoln for Tokens and Heft, and I will see you guys next time.